we go. All right. Hey, welcome to another review. I'm Kurai with Deliberate Wactus out of the Iron Mountains. Today's video was submitted by Warlord Ferrix out of Talgor. This is a first to 10 between Deamos and Aggro. I vaguely know Aggro. I don't really know his background. Deamos I've known for a long time, since probably about 2005. I know he's been working for a long time on a lot of his game. So let's see, what happens and what we can give to these guys. All right. So start out with a good bit of testing, good bit of just waiting. And I kind of like how Deamos isn't really demonstrating his guard early on. He's kind of holding it close, keeping everything crossed, not tossing anything out. Deamos is generally the kind of person who is going to do a lot of testing and a lot of looking, kind of like that. Catches him reaching, punishes him with that cross chop. Manipulating the sword.
Yep.
Reaching just a touch, but manages to shut it down. Take that real quick. It's good stuff. Aggro looking for the punish on Deamos when he's out manipulating the other swords. Can't see shit from here. There we go. What happened there? Do a little bit of a block strike exchange. Stop that. There we go. Slow this down just a touch. I want to see kind of. So he takes a deep step. As he's throwing, Aggro catches the block on the hand. And instead of retreating a ton, he stands up straighter and throws deeper outside wrap. Deamos does try to block it out, but does not quite get it. Okay. And then that's always a tough position to be in. Right there, you really want to be relying on your footwork. And yeah, you can actually see Deamos spends a lot of this last exchange with his. Why is this here? I'll have to get rid of this. Sorry, 1 second. What the hell? Whatever. There we go. Okay. So he spends a lot of this last exchange with his foot either kind of rolling over onto the arch or up off the ground. In situations where you're under, you're outgunned, you really want to maintain your mobility a ton. One thing I'd really love to see out of the both of these guys is a lot more moving, not just towards, or away from each other, but starting to play a little bit more by cheating their foot out to the left or right just a little bit. Something that you can, if we can ever find a good video of it, you can see Eggman do, is he will move his feet in these tiny little steps as he's moving forward, or as his hands are moving to cover his forward motion, and then by the time you realize what's going on, a lot of the time he's already so close it doesn't really matter what you're going to do. He's going to be able to hit you. If you watched the last review with Anatole and Unknown, you see Anatole doing a lot of that as well, where these guys are kind of taking the deep commitments. They're really just kind of standing and swinging at each other without too much setup. And obviously, I don't know how late in the day this is. I don't know if these guys are already tired. Let's see, that was nice. Get the stab. Oh. Yeah, and good call from Aggro. I just want to see the setup on that one more time. I apologize for Constantly rolling back. Okay, so he starts with the cross, slides out of the way. Aggro's planted himself and reaching. And yeah, you can really see here where Aggro's weight is, out kind of in front of his, I guess his shoulder's probably right around here. So not, why is it doing a curve? It's not super bad, it looks like it's fairly in line with his knee, not out over his toe. But you can see his heel, I know it's behind the bar, but his heel's up just a little bit off the ground, and he's got a lot of that compensated forward motion. Oop. Just can't do it today. So then they're both reaching. Aggro recovers, but is standing rather square here. Deamos is threatening outside. So they're trading. Bop, bop. He threatens outside. Aggro responds. His torso's turned. You get that nice little circle stab in. Good stuff. I thought that would have been body, but must have slid past and got an arm. Either way, good block strike exchange. That's definitely something that Deamos does really well, is to sit there and hang out in block strike range and bang it out. He loves that kind of stuff. He's put a lot of hours into it. That's not where you want to fight him. So Aggro, you seem to be the type of guy who I would assume wants to move a lot more, throw kind of weird outside shots, or fight more similarly to Ferrex. So I would even say don't sit there and hang and bang. Trade a shot or two if you really want to, and then either commit real hard to punish him when he's ready to block on his turn, quote unquote, or bail out and reset it. That's not bad. They're fighting a little crossfoot there, and just kind of some chops, and sometimes the answer is just chops. You just come in and you chop it up, and his tip is messed up. I really like a lot of what Deamos is doing, where he's throwing that upwards, like that rising chop. Good backhand, misses the block. Okay.
Thank you.
I think where Aggro is really getting his wins is a lot of the time it looks like Deamos is overextending, because he's taking those really big lungy steps. And then he gets into a position where he's exposed, and he can't really use his footwork to protect himself. So instead he has to hope that his hands are good enough, and he has good hands, he has good solid blocks, but with how deep Aggro likes to throw these, and the fact that he's taking these deep lunges and compromising his height and his position, it's really easy to see where he's going to get out of position, where he's going to get out of a good guard position. Overall, it's a pretty good set so far. I think this is one of those matchups where one adjustment from either one of these fighters would very quickly start to skew it back the other way, and I'm interested how that's going to go, if we're going to see that. So we're about 5 minutes in. I don't fully know what the score is here, but it's almost 12 minutes long, so unless there's a big break in the middle because they're working on something, or they're figuring something out, I'm wondering if this is a particularly close, like maybe a 10-8 or a 10-9. Interesting to note is they're also fighting crosshand a lot. They're not hand matching, which is the kind of thing I'd expect. Oh, yep, Deamos to do. But he keeps losing that. That forces the simul. So let's look at that shot that Aggro keeps throwing, and specifically where it keeps hitting Deamos, right? So I'm pretty sure that was it just there. And okay, so he starts it. He's stepping. This is nice. You see him kind of stepping off to the right. Crosses the swords in front. Really, really hard elbow lead. And this is definitely going to be a turnover. So if Deamos is on top of it, he can chop that, but it is a bit of a reach. And there you see, okay, and so you can see right here, you can see the flex on where it's hitting. So it looks like it probably landed into the hand a lot, and then there's some that's just connecting on the inside of the wrist on the other side. So it's a good take from Deamos. And what was he doing here? So he brought his guard over. Let's bring this back a little bit. Okay, come on, almost there. Okay, he's definitely close enough to hit. His feet are not in a bad position just yet. His weight is settling down, and his back foot comes up, which is where Aggro seems to attack. He's expecting the cross, it looks like, based on where his right hand comes out, because it comes from here where it's covering horizontally to here where it's covering vertically. And I would imagine that he was thinking that this is going to be some type of deep outside wrap, and then he's going to block it and maybe chop Aggro twice, but instead gets caught there. What I'd like to see him do is maybe project his guard forward just a bit, get it a little further away from him and further into the cone of Aggro's attack and help shut that down. He's got his guard pretty wide, likely an adjustment to the fact that Aggro does like to throw outside a lot and throw those wide shots. Never fought Aggro that I can remember, maybe once or twice at, like, I think Curse perhaps, but looking at this, I would wager that some of the choices that Deamos is making are probably as a result of his experience fighting with Aggro. Don't know what Banshee was saying there. I'll wind that back. Oh, counting it off. So it is 6-5. Okay, Aggro leading 6-5. Yeah, like I was thinking, it's pretty close. Deamos testing more. Really bringing that backhand forward a lot and squaring him up. His front hand, his right hand, is doing a lot of the work. And I know that he is right-handed, but I really feel like he's not quite capitalizing where he could. I would like to see Deamos bring his left hand in a little bit more often to the fight, as well as project it a little bit more. Give Aggro maybe something to lazy swing at and see if he can catch him being a little lazy with the shot and punish him for it. I get it. It looks like the man, is he's pretty quick and he feints hard, so it's easy to get bought into that kind of thing. But he's also just giving him a ton of room to work by chasing him down and having his hands, Deamos having his hands so close to his body is compromising his guard. So he's got a couple of things kind of working against him here. I'd want to see him bring some stuff out a little bit, be a little more proactive in the fight as far as shutting things down, maybe giving Aggro more to work against and think about with safe chops to the forearm. Because I'm pretty sure if Deamos is chopping to the forearm with just small lateral movements, maybe small steps to the left or right, he's going to start picking up Aggro's forearms as Aggro winds up to swing. This is really just a great set, it looks like, for Aggro overall, because he's been able to get a couple of different behavior changes out of Deamos. We saw Deamos being a little more cautious with his approach in some cases, as far as, like, I guess not cautious, being a little more proactive and taking a little bit more time to chop and to set up and to control the combat in the situation. Okay, that's probably been busted the whole time. Oh Lord. God. Ferrex. Okay, aggro thrown again from range still, throwing these wide shots. And, yep, caught Deamos' backhand while it was coming forward. He's really, really pushing that hand out. Now that was really nice. Get him into that block strike situation, make him reach and catch him inside. Good stuff. So both down to their left hand. I think Deamos got that one. I'm not sure. 8-7. Okay. Must have been a lot of simultaneous there, because last time they checked in it was 6-5. So. Squared up. Deamos is leading with his right. Aggro's leading with his right. Aggro's projecting that left hand real hard, though. They're mirroring each other just a little bit here. Drops the sword. Starts the block. Aggro again pulls that sword all the way out. And, oh, he goes inside. Nice. Up the body. Yeah, that's between the two swords. It's a good shot. Okay, Deamos. Much better. Look at that. That was. He's playing. He's creating threat. Love that. Good stuff. Good job, Deamos. 8-9 aggro. Okay. So this is game point. This is probably the last one, I think, because at this point, aggro has 2 matches that he can just kind of like dump on. Oh, 9-9. Okay. Good pressure. And it looks like Deamos is feeling pretty confident now, like he's got a new plan here. And so for these long sets, especially stuff where it goes back and forth, you know, in a 1st to 10, where it's not just a shutout on one side or the other, but where they go back and forth, your ability to adapt is so important. Your ability to read what your opponent wants and deny them that opening is excellent. Good fights. And let's watch this last exchange just a little bit. Just a little bit more, because I want to see. So before, I will say it looked like, you know, Aggro's doing a lot of the backing up. Deamos is doing a lot of the aggressing, but it was at a different tempo. Deamos is forcing Aggro to make choices, taking up space. Which arm? Hold on. Did that go underneath the... Not sure. Either way. An important thing to note here is just how often, you know, how often it came down to trying to either test and crowd out, you know, punishing each other for bad options, or forcing that other person to make a bad choice. If you give each other a lot of time, you know, you can either set up something really good, or maybe they'll just make their own mistakes, right? Maybe they'll just choose poorly. But even in this case, we look at that fight right here back at the beginning, right? Let's go a little further back here. Aggro makes a bad decision early on, gets caught reaching. That's on him, right? That's his fault. Not to say it doesn't mean like that, but here he gets caught in a situation where he has to block a lot, and Deamos brings both swords into the fight to give Aggro multiple things he has to react to. thereby, eventually he's going to make a bad decision. And because Aggro is on the back foot, he's got his sword pulled back. It's very vertical. There's not a whole lot of return fire that it's likely he's going to do, and he's also giving up a lot of space. This is a really fun set to watch for me because just knowing Deamos and then knowing kind of the area or the people that these two are around, like Warlords, Ferrex, and Banshee. So this is a lot of fun to see. I really liked Aggro's willingness to get in and throw at deep angles, and when Deamos stopped pressing all the time, his willingness to go ahead and to take advantage of the fact that Deamos was not making decisions and was not taking up space, was being overly cautious. At the same time, I'd really like to see Aggro put a little more cover on himself when he's doing those really reachy reverse wraps that he started doing towards the, I want to say the 5-minute mark, somewhere in here. You can see that he keeps pulling his right arm really back far out of the way, which is likely a response to try and create as little exposure as possible and cover himself. But he could do that just as easily by stepping to his left and throwing stepping forward and to the left with his back foot, creating a different angle, creating new possibilities for himself in terms of ways to manipulate the guard. And on the other hand, how Deamos works it, there was a period here in the middle where he starts to get run on because he's not making decisions, he's not making Aggro do anything, he's just looking for Aggro to mess up, but he's so dedicated to defending that he's getting caught. He's getting caught in a bad situation where he is only reacting and not being proactive. He's not acting. And Aggro is able to take advantage of that. But then as we start to get towards the end, he starts to actually make more active decisions, go back to what he was doing in the beginning where he was taking up space with the sword, playing with the other, the other swords, making Aggro choose. I still don't like that, like in this fight, he's devoting really hard to blocking with his right, and only his right. But that might just be a stylistic choice. I'd really like to see him project his guard a little bit more and get that out there. And for both of them, I really want to see them start moving left and right, start doing just the little movements that we talk about a lot, such as everybody always says lateral movement, more lateral movement, what that means. But if you, especially in flow, if you get offline and you force, if you get past their lead hand basically, and you're outside of that lead hand, for instance, not that they're going to do it in this situation, but just to highlight, since they're both right foot forward, if either one of them gets on the outside here, right, their left hands are going to be completely taken out of the situation, like out of the fight. It's just going to be this hand trying to block and swing until they can reorient themselves to aim into the fight. So if Deamos is able to move this way, if Aggro moves past Deamos on that side, if they do that kind of thing, they can really start to control the fight better by taking the other person's sword out of the fight. So all in all, really great fights. Main takeaways, just both of them, I'd love to see them focus on moving off of that line more, doing a little bit more setup where they're using their hands to hide the small steps that their feet are making, using a little bit more of their problem solving brain to understand what it is the other person wants and then deny them that. So that's really all I've got for today. I hope that was somewhat helpful, maybe gave you some ideas. This was Kurai with Deliberate Wactus, and yeah, stay tuned for next time. Thanks. Bye.